China's capital is back under a partial lockdown this morning amid very real fears of a second wave of COVID-19. 2 months after Beijing lifted its emergency measures, a new cluster of positive cases have emerged, and that is linked to a major food market. Mass testing is underway now in Beijing. The city has raised its alert level to the second highest possible, and officials have canceled well over half of all commercial flights in and out of the capital. That introduces reporter Patrick Fok, who is on the story for us tonight, there, live from Beijing. So let's bring everybody up to date on these new outbreaks, these new clusters that are so concerning, Patrick, and the response this has prompted even just within the last couple of hours from authorities.
Well, Heather, you say they're new, but there has been a suggestion that this fresh outbreak, so to speak, has possibly been around for much longer. Today, the head of the Center for Disease Control and Prevention has suggested that there may have been people carrying the disease as early as back in May. They may just have had very mild symptoms or even been asymptomatic. He says that he thinks there's a possibility that the virus may have been incubating in perhaps a humid, dark, polluted place, like we may have seen in Simfadi Market, and then after a certain period of incubation, it then was exposed to people and may have been passed on to each other. If that is the case, there is a concern that this outbreak could be wider than has been reported so far. As we know, there are about 136 new cases from this second wave, if you like, of this second outbreak. But if the disease has been going around for several weeks, there is every possibility that it has spread much wider.
So what are the repercussions then for China just after emerging from those very strict lockdowns, Patrick?
Well, as you can imagine, from a perspective of morale, it's really been very bad for people in Beijing. When you speak to people about what's been happening over the last few days, it perhaps hasn't quite sunk in. But, you know, as time goes by, I think people are feeling more and more demoralized about it. But the other thing, of course, is that China has been desperate to get its economy back on track. And interestingly, one of the things that hasn't happened just yet, despite all these restrictions that have come into play, including stopping people from getting around different parts of town easily and travel and so on and so forth, business activity for the time being is largely untouched. So if you go outside, you can still see restaurants and shops and so on and so forth. They are still open, and authorities are perhaps reluctant to stop business activity from just getting on as usual. But that may very well change in the days ahead if they do find that this outbreak is worse than they know about now.